Hey guys, it's John with Wrestling with the Word, the YouTube channel. Do you feel like, especially when you get in these Christian bubbles and you look around, and everyone's life, it seems so nice, neat, and put together, but your life is in chaos, and at times it's even spiraling out of control. Well, let me be the voice of reassurance to you. You're not alone. Most of us, we're just putting on these fake masks, trying to make it seem like everything is fine. But realistically, we all have struggles. We all are dealing with different things. Most people just don't want to actually own up to it and let other people know what's going on in their lives. But that is the biggest difference, in my opinion, between people that are quote unquote Christians nowadays versus people that actually lived it in the biblical times. I want to talk to you right now about the story of King David. And there's going to be so many points to hit on throughout his whole entire life that I think that you can connect with. Now, when he first started off, just a young little shepherd boy, when Samuel went to the town and said that he was looking to anoint the next king, Samuel's parents didn't even think that he was, I guess, man enough to be king, that they didn't even tell him to go and join in on the feast. They told him just to stay being a shepherd and tending to the sheep. And as Samuel goes through everyone, he says, "Are these all your kids? Like, is this really all you got?" And he goes, "Well, there's one more. Our youngest, David, he's a shepherd boy, but you probably don't want anything to do with that." And they immediately go out. They get David, and he gets anointed to be the next king. Now, one minute he is just this scrawny little shepherd boy, and all of a sudden now he's going to be anointed as the next king. And I'm sure you can relate to that to a degree, that maybe your family, they put you down throughout your whole entire life and you haven't been invited to feast or whatever it may be. But God, he looks at you and he sees you with so much more potential than anyone else around you possibly can. So if your family or your friends or anyone that is in your life is telling you right now that you can't do something, let my voice be a reassurance to you. You are going to do great things, and God has so much in store for you. And if you look out throughout the rest of his life, he goes from being the shepherd boy to being the man that conquered Goliath. Now, there's a lot of things that happened in between the two, but his faith ultimately is what caused him to conquer Goliath. Every other man there was so afraid of Goliath. But he put a couple of rocks in a slingshot and he conquered him. Everyone else was so afraid to even step in front of him, but he walked by faith blindly, knowing that God was going to eliminate any enemy in his presence. Most of us don't have that kind of faith now. And going from there to where his sin, his pride became his fall. He lusted so hardcore after one of his best friend's wives. And if you don't know about the way they set things up back in I guess the times when he was alive, I don't know how else to say it, the people that were surrounding the king's castle or court or house or whatever you want to call it, those people were the people that he trusted most and considered his friends, the people that he was the closest to, the people he encountered on the most regular occasion. And when King David went up to the top of the castle and he was sitting there, he noticed Bathsheba, one of his best friend's wives, was on one of the other rooftops nearby. And you'd think, oh, maybe he should just allow her to have her personal time bathing and then just go dip out, do his own thing. But that's not what King David did. He ended up lusting after her, looking after her, and eventually he had his way with her. And you would think maybe he should own up to it right there, right? Surely someone who's considered a man after God's own heart owned up to it in that moment, right? And he made everything right. But that's not what happened with King David. His sin, it was one mistake after the other, little compromises throughout his whole entire life that allowed him, because he thought that he was invincible at this point, probably, at least that's what I would assume. I don't know his thought process, but at this point, he had all these little compromises that led up to this. He ends up having his soldiers go off to war. He gets Bathsheba pregnant. And then he's freaking out like you or I would if we were in this situation. And he brings Bathsheba's husband back in. And he's like, hey, I want you to have some little R&R time. Relax, be with your wife. But he doesn't want to sleep with his wife because his men, they're still out on the battlefield. And he says, I want to be back with my men. I want to finish this war. So he sends him back. King David sends him back off to war. But this time he sends him with a scroll. And the scroll, it reads something to the effect of he wants him to be pretty much put on the front lines because King David wants to pretty much eliminate the problem that he has with him, because as long as he's alive, people are going to question the fact that the baby that is inside of Bathsheba is his. So sends him off to war. He ends up getting killed. And you would think, whoa. How is someone who is considered a man after God's own heart doing all of these sins? And I agree with you, he's done all these crazy things. But he eventually does own up to it. But if you look at what he did, because his little compromises along the way lead up to so much worse things. First, he was lusting after his friend, his neighbor's wife. He ends up sleeping with her. Adultery. He ends up sending his friend off to war to get him killed. He became a murderer, even though he was not the one who actually killed him. He sent him off to war. He's as good as a murderer at that point. But he owns up to every single thing that he did, and he cries out for God's help. And that is the biggest difference between him and Christians that are alive now today, because we're so afraid to let anyone know what's going on, whether it's going to affect our position at work, at church, whether people are going to think highly of us or less highly of us, or people are going to have some shift in their opinion on who we are. Oh, that can't be me. Like I can't let people know what's going on in my personal life because I'm in this position at church, or I'm in this position at work, and if people think that, all of a sudden it affects who I am. And we allow these things to completely roll over us. And we can have the best excuses possible, but ultimately it boils down to our pride. And when we're prideful, pride comes before the fall. And if you look at it, if you're hiding something that is going on in your life, it doesn't matter if it's something that you did or something that someone did to you. It doesn't matter the situation, but if you're hiding it, God will never be able to use it. And if it's something that is so painful, God's going to be able to use that, even if it's just to help prevent someone else from going through the same type of pain. So I want to be the first person to tell you, it doesn't matter what you're struggling with, that we need to lay it all at God's feet, and He will be able to use it to help other people. It doesn't matter how crazy your past is. If you look at King David, someone who's considered a man after God's own heart, he had lusted, like I said, he became a murderer. Your life probably is not as crazy as King David's was. So I just want you to know there is so much hope left for you. God is going to do so many great things through your life. You just have to allow Him to actually do it. And give Him everything, even the secret things that you have hiding. But God loves you. So do I. God bless.